Hey guys, it's Lydia here from LE3D, and today I'm going to be showing you the first part of my build of my brand new awesome CNC machine. So, let's get started. Alright guys, so starting off, like I said, this is going to be the first part of the CNC Build videos. I was going to try put everything all together in one video, but unfortunately it'd be way too long, and I know you guys probably wouldn't want to sit through 1 hour long video. So as you can see behind me, obviously this is what the CNC looks like, and now this is not finished. This is exactly where I'm at right now. Once I upload this video, it's not finished. It's partly done. I'm working on the electronics and everything, and that will be the last thing you will see in this video later on once you start watching it. And so in this video it shows the build of the table, putting all the pieces together, printing out the pieces for the actual machine, and there's just a bunch of time lapses. I do explain in some of the time lapses of my build to tell you guys what I'm doing and basically why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it and all that stuff. So that's basically what this video is going to be. I know you probably would enjoy it more if it was just one video shortened down to just the simple things, but I really wanted to show you guys how I did this and all the steps I went through. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Alright, so I'm not going to narrate everything I do here, but the first thing I did was take apart my TiVo Tarantula old 3D printer that you guys know I made a video on to attempt to make it into an engraving machine. Didn't work very well, so I'm going to try use a lot of the parts from this actual printer, including all the stepper motors, some of the screws, the bearings, and even some of the belt. So I'm going to be using a lot of this for the actual CNC, and also the base of this will become the cutting bed for the CNC. So I'm going to be playing lots of music for you guys, so it's just going to be a long bit of time lapses of what I've been doing for this actual first part of building this CNC machine. Alright, so after just cleaning everything up, I started to set everything out to show what I had available and what I can use for when I start actually putting together the CNC. And then I took the base and I'm just cleaning up the edges a little bit. There was a cutout where I tried to put the LCD screen, so I just cut that part off. Did make it a little smaller, but that wasn't a big deal. So this is an example on Fusion 360 of what it will look like. And I designed it as best as I could. Not everything's to scale, obviously, but it is as best as I could get it. Now what I'm doing here is I have these old cabinet doors, and I'm going to start making the big base for the actual CNC. This is what the CNC will sit on, and then the gray big piece of wood, that is what it the material that it will be cutting. We'll be able to secure to that. We'll drill holes in that later. But I'm just trying to figure out the right dimension and what will actually fit in my 3D printing room on length and size and everything. So then I have all these pieces I have to actually attach together. So I end up cutting them all on my table saw, as you'll see here. And then I actually connect them all with some dowels, or some old dowels, and just glue everything together and make a large one-piece table. So I'll let you guys watch that, and then I'll let you know what else we're going to be doing. So now I went into Fusion 360 to design some little connectors, and I also designed a new knob for my LCD screen, which I actually end up using a different LCD screen. But these little connectors are just to help secure the build or the base a little bit better because the joints weren't so good. And then now I'm starting to cut out all of the actual wooden pieces for the actual machine. So I drew a bunch of holes and I cut out a bunch of different templates of each. Alright, so after everything was sanded, all the wood parts were sanded, I decided to coat all of the y-axis parts with polyurethane just because I thought the wood looked really cool and interesting, so I wanted to keep that just to give the machine a little bit of character. And then I filled in some of the bad parts on the z-axis, x-axis parts just to make them look a little nicer. And then I ended up painting them in this like grayish brown black color, and that was just to clean it up to make it look a little bit nicer than it would if it was just plain wood, because that wood wasn't the greatest. So back to the table base. So here I am just writing out dimensions on what I need to cut for 2x4s. So I will put a base around um, actual base of this top of this table, and then I will just be cutting a bunch of 2x4s to make the legs and then make a base around the legs. So I'll speed that up here so you guys can watch. I did have a trial and error where my 2x4s were actually warped, so I needed to use a lot of clamps to actually get the board or the table actually straight and make sure everything was even and looked nice. Also, one other side note, I wanted to make sure it was tall enough so I could fit one of these miniature vacuums that I had, so that I can have a dust collection mount set on this CNC once everything is built and put together. And finally, the last wood piece I actually had to do was the actual base for the x-axis, because I was having a little difficult with this gluing. I had to glue two pieces together to get it a certain thickness, and it kind of warped, so I actually did have to end up flattening that, and that took a while. But other than that, I cut it out just like I did all of them, drilled the holes, and then cut it out on the bandsaw, and that was super simple. And I also used my chop saw to cut the straight lines on the outside just because it was a plain box, and then I used the jigsaw once again to cut out the insides and our fancy sander to get all the curves and stuff to look super nice. And the final part to do was just to coat the base here with some like latex paint. It was red because that's all I had. But then later, you'll see I actually paint it like a brownish color. So now I'm actually marking out where I'm going to drill the holes. So I actually was going to space them out 1 inch apart all the way around the board, but then changed it to 2 inches. And then I put in these little T-nuts, they're called, and that is what I can screw in some screws to hold down the actual material that I'll be cutting out of. So I'll mark all the lines here, drill them, and put those in, and you guys can watch that. And as you can see here, I'm putting in the T-nuts now. I don't show me putting in all of them because I didn't have any at that time, but I eventually went and bought like 50 more and put in the rest in all the other holes. Alright, so with the filament, a huge shout out to Polymaker once again for supporting me on my channel. They sent me 3 awesome rolls of their Polymaker Polymax PLA filament in the teal color. I thought it would be the greatest color to pick because it represents their channel very well. And at the end of this video, I will let you know the name of this CNC because these guys are so great. They help me so much with my channel. They support me with sending me lots of filament, as you can see in the back here. And this filament is greatly packaged. Everything is clean and super nice. Their company is so supportive of young creators, and I want to make sure you guys go check them out down below. In the description, I will definitely leave a link to where you can get this really cool filament. This filament is very strong, but it is still also really easy to print like PLA is. So you basically get the characteristics of ABS filament, but the quality of printing like PLA. It is very nice, spooled very, very nicely, and overall just a great product, and super glad I'm able to use it. So now once most of my prints were basically printed out, as you can see here, I have a bunch of them already. I did accidentally print them with support, and I had the wrong support on, so it was very, very difficult for me to clean out all these holes that really didn't need support at all. So if you actually do make this same CNC machine, you don't need support for anything really on all these pieces. Just made it more difficult for me. And then I did end up buying some more bearings. I was going to try use the ones for my old TiVo Tarantula, but those unfortunately didn't work. And as you can still see here, as I mentioned earlier, the bow in this like rose gold plate, as you can see, it's very exaggerated, and it did give me some difficulty in the end, but I eventually got it to work on the rail to move smoothly, but it was very difficult, so make sure you use all flat pieces if you're doing it with wood. So now when it came to putting the y-axis together, it was a little difficult because my dimensions of the wood pieces were way different than the actual specific dimensions of the instructions. These were more like 12 millimeters and they're supposed to be like 8. So I had some struggle finding the right size bolts and stuff, but I eventually got it to work and put everything together, and it's worked out pretty well. And I also had to make sure I had the right bearing sizes, just changing it to move very easily. And also, while setting up the actual perimeter, as you can see, the outside triangles that, or the squares that hold the bars, I needed to make sure that I used as much space as I could so I could have a bigger carving area. And the z-axis, as you can see I'm working on right now, was a little difficult because, once again, the bars were a little smaller, so when I was supposed to squeeze these pieces together to hold on to it, I couldn't really get a grip, so I actually had to use some electrical tape, which I don't show in this, I figured out later, so that everything is really sturdy and strong in the end, so nothing wiggles. There was definitely a lot of adjusting and readjusting with putting in new bearings and stuff and tightening the belts to make sure everything moved smoothly, and there was no chugging once again. And then I did actually find a nice mount for the router I have. I think this is meant for a Dremel, but I figured this router was small enough to mount on there, so it's a little router. It's very nice, and I actually did design a little thing for the bottom to connect a vacuum to, which you don't see yet, but I will show you guys in the end, and it'll just suck up the dust. Alright, so Ziltech very, very kindly sent me a board for this CNC. This is exactly what they sent me. A RAM's LCD screen, a MKS Gen L version 1 controller board, and 5 stepper drivers. And so it came in this nice box. And once again, as you guys know, Ziltech is very, very nice and supports me on my channel very much. They send me so much filament. I've done multiple filament reviews for them, and they're just overall a great company and very supportive of young makers like me. So I decided to reach out to them to see if it was possible if I could do a semi-review or just show off their product in this actual build. So there's lots of packaging. So what we have here, this is the board on the LCD screen. These are the stepper drivers, and this is the motherboard. So I'll do a little time lapse of me hooking all this up, and then we will start flashing this with the firmware. Alright guys, so that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Again, this was part 1, and I really had a lot of fun actually doing this build, putting everything together and showing you guys with all of my time lapses. I know they weren't very specific or anything, but I really tried my best to put together a simpler video instead of doing everything really detailed, which would have made it very, very long. But I do want to thank Polymaker so much for sending me their amazing Polymax PLA filament. It is really awesome, and I definitely love the color. It is the teal color. I will leave it down below in the description, a link to where you can get your own. They very, very, very kindly sent me their awesome filament, 3 rolls of it, so I had 3 printers going all at once, doing all of the printing, and I believe it racked up to about 100 hours total of all of the parts, which I did overnight. There was lots of 24 hours and 32-hour prints, which would not have been possible without Polymaker. The cost of this machine so far has been very, very low, and without Polymaker's supportive help, that would have been way more expensive. So thank you guys for sending me your awesome filament, and also Ziltech for sending me the electronics that I needed to power this machine. I was going to try use my normal old Tarantula 3D printer board and LCD screen, but unfortunately those didn't work. They weren't the right thing that I needed, and what Ziltech sent me was just what I needed and what got me up and running, and will hopefully get this thing going and everything will start to work. So thank you, Ziltech, for sending me those materials and those electronics. Again, down below in the description will be Ziltech's website, and there is a code that you can use. It is LE3D15. You can get 15% off any of their products on there, which is really awesome because they're super supportive of this channel. So that is basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I will put down below in the description the part 2 of this video once I do upload it. I hope you guys watch that video and let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.